And I was anxious to do this too because I noticed you kind of found me through was it Meg Hammond with her
Yeah,
stuff? Are you
yeah,
also out there in that area? In
yeah. I guess I didn't realize. And so I was looking through her website, and she's from Indiana, and I'm from Indiana.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
so that's small world.
yeah, well, I just curious because I always appreciate that. I've had a few, a lot of times I get reached out to by publicists, writers, publicists that are coming. So whenever I have a writer that does it themselves, I'm always like, please, please come on here. I really, because I understand, how hard that is. I appreciate that. So I always try to give the writers that are doing it on their own. I was like, yeah, no, please, please come on. Yeah. So I'm glad it worked out.
Heavy,
Bored.
heavy,
I am heavy, heavy, heavy.
Bored.
I may say that the male is entirely hostile. No!
resources,
Life with friends is boring. We must not say so.
This is Andrew Wittstadt, and you were listening to Heavy Board. And we're recording this on August 5th, 2025. My guest today is the author Veronica Leigh. Veronica owns and operates her own Substack page, her own blog, and she writes and published her latest novel titled The Keeper of Lost Daughters, which came out from Readmore Press just in this past year of June 2025. Veronica is a self-described caffeine enthusiast, a Christian, a woman of faith, and a writer who is fighting in the trenches to make their way in this shrinking world of letters like all of us. And she is here to share her journey with all of you out there. Veronica Leigh, thank you so much for coming on Heavy Board.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. And I love having you on here. And I guess I said in the beginning of this when we were chatting, I love having writers on that are doing it themselves too, that are doing
Yeah.
all of this marketing stuff. And it's a constant theme on the podcast for writers. We had a writer on recently that said, you can write books or you can market books. You can't do both. Like it's kind of hard to do both. And I think
Yeah, you have
there's
to wear all the hats, I guess, these
right,
days.
yeah, and it's stressful. It's hard. It's so
Hmm.
listeners out there want to know all this too. So I'm glad you're here, Veronica. And the first question we start with is the same question we ask all writers and artists that come on here. We want to know, what was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? What did your parents do? How did these early years start to form you?
Well, I grew up primarily in Terre Haute, Indiana. Uh, I grew up mostly in the 90s and early 2000s. My parents, my dad was an aeronautical engineer. And then he eventually started substitute teaching, which he actually enjoyed more than
Right.
the engineering field. And my mom, she's worked for in a variety of offices, and she primarily she's billed insurance for hospitals for most of her career. Yeah, I kind of had probably a boring childhood. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was anything really exciting or I think the most interesting thing I did growing up, we were homeschooled, so that might have
Okay.
been, yeah, that probably was a little different.
Yeah, so you said you grew up where is that in Indiana? How is that in relation to the cities for those that don't know the the
Um,
geography of Indiana out there?
okay, Indiana, we're the neighbor to the east of Illinois, and I mean, I'm sure you know of Chicago. Chicago is probably like 3.5 hours north of
Okay,
us,
so you're in the southern
to
part
the
of Indiana.
west a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you were
So I
so
got
you were pretty close to I guess the lakes and all of that out there in
Oh
that
yeah,
area.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lake Michigan is at the very top of our state. It kind of dips down into it. So, and we have the Indiana Dunes around there.
And you said you were a child of the 90s and the early 2000s. Does that make you a
Yes, yeah.
millennial, Veronica?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
older millennial, probably.
Yeah, well, we love millennials on this podcast because I myself one, I guess I'm technically one of the younger side of millennials, technically, but
Okay, so you're younger than I am
I'm
then.
35, yeah. So
I'm a little older.
but I when you said the 90s, 2000s, I was like, that's important. That's important because I've been thinking more about that too, like kind of being a
Hmm.
millennial and growing up in that world is
Yeah.
just so informative. The pop culture from that era,
Hmm.
the novels that are coming out, that they were huge. Is when people were still reading novels, so they were huge. When
Hmm.
you come out with a big novel, Harry
Yeah.
Potter was like came out in that
Oh yeah,
time.
I remember that era. Yeah.
Were you a little too old for the Harry Potter when it came out, or were you right? I was prime age for me, so I don't know
I was
what
probably prime age, but I didn't end up reading them.
a little too
I got
childish for you at that point, like kind of
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I wasn't really interested in a lot of fantasy books at that time.
yeah.
I was like more of a Laura Ingalls Wilder, Little Women fan.
Yes, yes, yes. That's we're gonna get to that too. We're gonna get to that. Uh, but I wanted. So you said you were homeschooled. Was that a faith reason for your?
Originally, no. We did go with, for religious curriculum. We had kind of my it actually began with my sister. She probably would be now known as having maybe ADHD, but she did struggle some a little bit in school, and she was just having some issues, so they decided to homeschool her. And I guess they kind of my parents asked me, "Do you want that too?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's something different. It's
Right.
not. I didn't know anybody else who had homeschooled in those days. So
Yeah.
from like fifth grade on, I was homeschooled.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Did it through high school age,
Yep,
basically?
yeah.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Yeah. How was that?
I liked it because I was so shy and kind of backwards. So I think probably public school education would have overwhelmed me as I got older. But
As it does to us all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I enjoyed it. I don't really have any regrets about it.
Right.
Liked it.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by that too. We've had a few people on here, a few people that are homeschooling their children and stuff, and I'm always just fascinated, why, what kind of
Mhm.
curriculums? Because I have when I came out of academia, I've seen the pedagogy. I've seen what they're teaching teachers to teach children, how they're
Oh,
training them and stuff like that. And it kind of is like you start to see the flaws in it. And then something like homeschool starts to make a lot more sense when you're looking into like some of what's
you do
being
get a lot
taught.
of one-on-one,
Right.
more so. And if you have issues, you can just focus on that. Maybe you can't as much in a bigger classroom. That was what we found out. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's different now. Like
I've heard, yeah, that
yeah.
that's the case. And then with some of these learning softwares too, it's even
Mhm.
easier to do the homeschool now with some of them.
Yeah, we when we did homeschooling, we had no softwares.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
like the prehistoric days
Yeah. Yeah.
of
Just
homeschooling.
oof. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. All right. The next question is always, when did reading and writing come into your life? Was that something that was always there? Did it come later in life?
Uh,
Ebbs and flows? How did reading and writing come into your life?
the writing thing was kind of there. Again, I was a child of the 90s and early 2000s, so there were times we didn't have the internet.
Right.
We had some limited cable. We just kind of like had to make our own fun. So writing eventually became something when I was around 11. My aunt heard I had written a short story and she was like, okay, you can do something with this. Keep it going, keep writing. And reading, I became more of a reader after I read The Diary of Anne Frank. There was so much about that diary I didn't understand of what was going on during the period. So I just had to do a deep dive into reading about her life and who she was. And it just kind of led me to reading about other things.
Yeah. How old were you, would you say? If we don't need exact age, but like when you first came across Anne Frank, I know that's something because I was assigned it in like fourth grade, something like
I
that. It's like,
was
yeah,
12. My aunt gave the one who was like, you got to start writing and
yeah,
continue the writing. She's like, you got to read The Diary of Anne Frank. So she gave it to me as a birthday present.
right.
And it was a life-changing thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it just like, the setting of that is just so intense, with the Holocaust stuff
Mhm.
going on, the hiding, there's all that actual, but yeah, there's something also kind of beautiful about that story in terms of this young girl.
Mm-hmm.
just kind of describing her teen inner life,
Oh,
but
yeah.
against the backdrop of this horrific historical,
Yeah, she was so young, but and you could relate to her at that age, but then she was so wise and kind of beyond
right?
that age too. It's
It's
just
kind of like, she thinks the boy is cute, and there's this kind of
hmm
like, the whole time it's looming in that background is like it's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
and then
Like,
the
yeah,
issues with her mother. Yeah, that's
yeah,
like kind of
very. And we're gonna get
yeah.
to that too, because the daughters are a theme in the novel and all of that. We're gonna get to all of that. Um, so along with that question is usually, what were some of the first writers you were enamored with, or who are your, we would say go-to idols in the literary world?
Yeah, I started with, like I said, Laura Ingalls Wilder. She was one, and then Louisa May Alcott. And then as I got older, I started reading Jane Austen and Elizabeth Gaskell and Edith Wharton. And I go back to them a lot.
Or Edith Wharton is one that is one of my favorite as well. Any particular books that
Um, The Age of Innocence. Yeah, I can see why it's a Pulitzer
yes.
Prize winning book. Um, I have to say that one she wrote called Summer, it
Yeah.
was heartbreaking. I was
Yeah.
just almost destroyed me.
Yeah. Little novella almost kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not one of her. I don't think it's one of her best known works, but it
Yeah.
was. She didn't write happy endings for her people.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I love Wharton, and Wharton is one of those ones where I feel like Wharton is always misunderstood by the
hmm
literary side too. Where in the 60s there was this shift towards like, oh, she's a satirist, she's satirizing
hmm
thing, and I'm just like, where are you getting that? Like, I was like, where are you
Yeah,
getting this?
yeah, it's like a
Like,
lot of it isn't
uh,
funny. It's
yeah, I'm like,
devastating.
these are Shakespearean level tragedies. Like, where
Yeah,
are you getting the satire? Because
well,
she's
like
calling some of these rich people stupid. I mean, that's the
yeah. Well,
satire.
the
Like,
how the House of Mirth ended, that's like one
right.
of the darkest endings.
Exactly, yeah. And we've covered that on this show. Yeah,
Oh
the House
yeah.
of Mirth, it was one of our first ones. It was because I mean I love Wharton. Wharton's one of my favorites, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, a
I've
lot of people I find haven't read her.
Oh, which is such a tragedy. I mean,
hmm
she is, especially as an American icon. I just, yeah, if you want
Yeah.
to have incredible tragedies, yeah, start with Age of Innocence, and it's probably the best you're gonna get. But I would say I've read almost everything she's put out, at least published
Yeah.
in her lifetime. There's a couple books that I still haven't read, but read almost all of them, and they're all great. They're all pretty good. Even her later stuff, like The Children and stuff, is pretty good.
Yeah.
Um,
I haven't, I don't think I've read that one. I think the latest I've read, I did try to read Glimpses of the Moon and I kind of struggled with that one.
yeah. That one's not as good. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
same type of
I
deal.
always,
Yeah.
I kind
Carriages
of
and
get in
upper
like five or
class.
six chapters and kind of got stalled out.
Yeah, and then you said Jane Austen. When did
Yeah.
you first discover Jane Austen, and what did it mean to you? What was the book?
Um,
If you
well,
can
I
remember.
discovered, yeah, it's Pride and Prejudice. I was about 17. My sister actually read it first, and she was like, "You gotta read this. It's so good." And I think the version I got was kind of an abridged, so it cut out all of Jane Austen's goodness. And finally, I watched the miniseries with Colin Firth, and that was like, okay, give it another try. This is too
Yeah.
funny not to pass up. I mean, I have to give it a try.
Was the Keira Knightley remake that came out around that time in the early 2000s have anything to do with it, or
I actually didn't like that one
you
when
didn't
it
like
first
that
came
one?
out, but as like years have gone by, I'd watch it occasionally, and I've grown to like it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
It's a
pretty
good,
good one. Yeah.
yeah. It's good if you're sort of introduced to the story. You get a kind of overview.
Yeah, and that's for millennials too. That's the reason I ask, is just because
hmm
that's another cultural touchstone that millennials, when they're referring to Pride and Prejudice, they're probably referring to that version of the movie, with Keira Knightley
Yeah,
and Matthew McFadden as
yeah. Like I said, it's grown on me. It's like as the older I get, the more I appreciate it.
say you were the classic. Yeah, you're like, no, I like the original stuff better. Yeah.
hmm
Of course. And Austen's one of those too. The reason I asked is just because Austen's such a huge figure, in literature, and
hmm
her influence is everywhere. I always say that, Austen is basically the model for the modern romance. Stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she set that into motion. I imagine Wharton was probably influenced by her in this way too.
hmm
Like it
Yeah, they
just,
kind of dealt with the upper classes a bit
yeah.
more.
And the love tragedies that are happening with
hmm
that, yeah. It just great stuff, great stuff. Almost, and there's kind of darker elements. Like Jane Austen's always kind of thought of as like, oh, it's just a love story. So sometimes it can
Right.
get pretty dark, like with some of her stuff, like tragic.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Willoughby, kind of what he does in Sense and Sensibility.
I was thinking even like was it Northanger Abbey and
Oh, well, the
some of that just
Mansfield
gets
Park's kind of sad.
yeah, yeah. Like I mean, there's kind of a I mean, I'm always just fascinated by that too, with love stories, why we're drawn to them, why we like them, romantic comedies, why they have such a special place in our culture and stuff, why we long for, like, I'm just, these constant themes that I'm always just kind of thinking in terms of story, in terms of writing, in terms of craft, in terms of cultural significance. Like, I'm always
Yeah.
thinking of these things and just fascinated, yeah, how writers view them and how they where because you kind of create hierarchies in your head. You're like, all right, this is my top tier, like my best. This is what I
Hmm.
love, and then okay, this stuff's okay, and well, I could take it or leave it. You kind of go through these tiers.
Yeah.
So I just like to try and whenever we have writers on, we like to get into it. Nonfiction versus fiction versus blogging. What is the difference between these, or is there one? Is there a different approach you have? And which one's your favorite? I know that's a large question, so we can take it one at a
Well,
time.
nonfiction, it's usually, if I do an essay, it's about something kind of personal, some kind of personal experience. And it may come a little easier than fiction. Blogging, it can be a challenge because, I mean, I never know what the readers are going to like. Sometimes I just start writing something and then I think, well, maybe they'll like it, maybe they won't, or agree with it, maybe they won't. It's kind of how it happens.
Right.
I think probably the essays are a little easier.
Really? Than
Hmm.
the blog? Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there a difference approach for when you sit down to write nonfiction versus a blog versus a fiction story or a novel?
I usually have a focal point, certainly for the essays. When it comes to writing fiction, I do outline, but often when I'm writing, the outline is abandoned. And then blogging, I kind of like have my talking points, I think, for each little article or whatever I'm working on.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm fascinated by this concept of the blogging kind of explosion
Hmm.
in what maybe let's say 2007-ish, because there were a
Yeah.
lot of people that got careers out of being bloggers. It started to it's kind of I always say this with social media too, is it collapses the genres, so it starts to collapse blogging with nonfiction and stuff, and you'll see almost articles published in the New York Times. It's technically one of the most prestigious places you can get an essay published in the world.
Hmm.
And it sometimes reads like a blog post or something, like it's kind of
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah, you can kind
almost
of pick it apart sometimes. I read one recently. It was actually about Jane Austen. It's like I can, like this, and this is wrong.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, it started a little controversy. I mean, that's part of it too. Maybe that's part of why the blogging and nonfiction article
Maybe.
writing is feels like the line is being blurred a little bit because it's just kind of all social media fodder for comments and clicks and stuff
Yeah,
in
yeah, from
engagement they call it.
clickbait or something.
Yeah. Maybe that's why. So there's always like, oh, Jane Austen's terrible. There's be like, or pick whatever literary figure, there'll be like an article about it every
Oh,
six
yeah.
months, and it'll set off a chain of events or at least just conversation. And that's the point of it really is to get people clicking and commenting and sharing the article. So it was just interesting. I didn't know if you had a different approach to any of those or not.
No, yeah, like I said, the nonfiction essays are usually something personal. The blog posts or whatever I get worked up on and want to write about,
Right.
usually involving period dramas. And then the fictions, whatever I feel like I want to write. And I have an outline, but I don't always use it.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. We're gonna get more to that when we talk to the routines too, but I was just fascinated because we've had people come on here. We actually had a lawyer come on here and he does some journalism, but he does fiction too, and he was telling us that he can't even sit at the same desk when he's doing like legal writing or journalism versus his fiction
Hmm.
writing. He just kind of has to
Hmm.
create a wall in his mind and then physically in the room, between his spaces. And I'm just fascinated if you had anything like that that you have to do, or it's just whatever you're
Um,
feeling, or
yeah, just kind of whatever I'm feeling. I do most of my writing actually in the living room where my animals are bouncing around trying to get my attention. So it's kind of chaotic, but it works.
animals. That's a good one too. Like, so animals. How many pets? How many cats, dogs? You a cat
Uh,
person, dog person?
well, I have two cats and two dogs. I'm probably more of a dog person, but I generally love both. Yeah, they're like one of the cats, one cat climbing on the keyboard as I'm trying to type usually, and then I have the dog trying to shove her ball in my face,
Right.
trying to get my attention, and the other one's barking out the window.
So it's like a little creative commons right there with everybody,
Oh
the
yeah,
dogs and all
yeah,
that. So I always ask that too because I was like, oh, are you a dog person or a cat person? Because it's going to tell me something about no, no,
yeah.
tell me something about your
I
personality.
probably lean more towards dog. It's
Yeah,
just lovable.
yeah, I'm as well. I'm a dog person as well. Yeah, there's just something about the dog and the human being that just, whew, yeah.
Yeah, man or woman's best friend.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I didn't know how many you said animals. I was like, whoa, how many we
Yeah,
talking here? So you got four
yeah.
pets?
Four right now. We had more in the past, but
Yeah. What was the largest number?
six.
Six? Oh wow.
Yeah, three dogs, three cats.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That is a full house. All right, let's
Yeah.
speaking of that, I wanted to talk about daughters and mothers. A theme in your book, but also I wanted to kind of, what is it? And this is another theme on the podcast, something that we don't necessarily have an answer for, but I'm just fascinated by this. What is it about daughters and mothers specifically? Is there a different tension there than maybe fathers and daughters, or daughters, or even fathers and sons? Or
I guess there might be. I know certainly my relationship with my mom was different than what I had with my dad. I didn't have any brothers, so I couldn't see how he would have interacted with the son. But uh, yeah, I mean, I can only speak from personal experience. My mom has had a great influence on my life, and probably probably shown in my book a little bit that the mother in the book has influence on her daughter's lives and
yeah.
does what she can to ensure their safety, which may not always seem like it's the right choice, but it's what she does.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it too, in terms of safety, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, just what I've witnessed in my own life and what I witness in, fiction, stuff like that, and just culture, everything around me, friends, all of that. There is something that as mothers and daughters age, there's just, I don't know, some type of tension that develops between, and maybe, like you said, I like the idea of it coming from a safety angle where the mother is trying to protect and it's almost
Yeah.
becomes overbearing. And that
Yeah.
creates the tension between like kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I was just curious of your thoughts. Yeah, and again, no definitive answers. We're
Yeah,
not trying to
I
solve it
mean,
for the
like, I
world
don't
here.
feel like
Yeah.
I've ever had any tension between my mother and I.
Right, right.
So I can't really weigh in on that part of the question, but yeah, I know, um, I guess from other relationship or other mothers I've observed, maybe there is tension in their relationships, but I think it always comes from a good place. They want what's best for their kids. They'll fight for them. They'll, even if they, like I said, make choices that don't always seem right, they want what's best for them.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking of things like sitcom tropes or something,
Yeah,
like
that's
with
that's
like
where my
the
mind was going. I was
yeah,
actually going
yeah,
through watch a show that I watch that's been a theme this season. You'd have this mother who's she's making these choices for her daughter, and you're thinking like, oh, I don't know if this is the right choice, but then you see a little bit later, maybe it is.
right. But then making that choice creates resentment,
It
tension, kind of,
does.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
like
kind of like
this,
taking away
yeah,
the daughter's agency. That's the big
yeah.
issue, I think, in the show.
Which maybe is a universal between all parents and children, yeah, or
Maybe.
something like that, yeah. But I've just been fascinated by it, yeah, and I was thinking of it, yeah, because I've been watching a lot of sitcoms recently, and I was just, and there's always the trope of like the mother's coming, the mother's coming, and everybody has to prepare for it because she's going to make comments about the decor or your hair or
Mhm.
the food that you're making for the thing
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
I've seen that
Just
quite a
always
bit.
kind of
Yeah.
it's how did that become a trope? Is that because it's true or is that I don't know. I don't know. I'm just
I,
fascinated by that.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It,
And
it
I know
makes for good comedy.
that yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just good comedy, but I don't know. I was just asking in terms of craft, like yeah, if that gave anything in terms of, that's a rich thing to explore for fiction and stuff. Those types of the
Yeah.
tension in certain relationships like that, family dynamics, and I don't know. I'm just fascinated by that recently, so I didn't know if you had any thoughts. And I mean, given your book and what it's, the themes in it, I just thought I was like, huh, I wonder Veronica's
Yeah.
thoughts on it.
Yeah, like I said, my heroine, she thinks she does what's best for her children and may always be good, may not.
Right.
But it always comes from a place of love, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Going off of that, I wanted to ask you, especially since we're talking family and all that, how would you say, or if it does it at all, how does your faith inform your writing, your creativity, or does it at all? Or again, this isn't a podcast where we need
Mhm.
definitive answers, just, yeah, your
It
thoughts.
kind of depends on what I'm writing. Considering this took place in my book took place in World War II and in Poland, it's kind of a religious country. They're
Right,
Catholic. It's a Catholic country. So that definitely, I felt more comfortable talking about religious things in that book. Some other things I've written, like short stories that have been like mysteries or gothic, it sometimes doesn't play a role at all. It just
right.
kind of depends on what the story's about and who the characters are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I asked too is one, I'm just curious, and two, I think as fiction writing, that's a great place for tension too, drama, faith, gaining faith
Hmm.
or losing faith, or the importance of faith, something like that. Is
Yeah.
great, great device too. So I'm just curious if it was,
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
that's kind of what happened in my book. I discussed that some. Um, yeah, it's kind of like, okay, why does this person have faith? Why doesn't this person? Or what happened? And things like that.
Yeah, that's why I was asking because I just thought it was curious how that plays out. Especially if you when you think about it, maybe it's something you don't even think about when you're writing and stuff, and then you like a year later reading it again, you're like, oh, maybe that is part of, maybe it did come through that
Hmm.
way. Yeah. I'm just curious about that because that's another theme on the podcast, the idea of faith, the idea of how it informs decision making, even in the tiniest instances or the larger instances. You can make a
Yeah.
decision on all that. But I didn't know. I was just like, huh.
Yeah, like I said, it depends on the story, the characters. Some of my characters are really devout Christians, others aren't.
You said,
Just
did you grow up Catholic, religious?
no, I'm Protestant, which I had to do a lot of research for the book because, like I said, I have a Protestant mentality. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, like I said, I had to do a lot of research for the book to get everything correct. Hopefully, I did.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up Catholic, so it's always kind of a topic that'll come up whenever I see it or hear it, and we'll discuss it a little bit there. But yeah, I was just curious about how faith informs writing and all of that.
Mhm.
I wanted to, going off of that, I wanted to ask you about grief. You wrote an essay a few years ago about nursing homes, aging parents. You know, why do you think that's such a rich topic for like writing, exploring emotionally or fictionally, when you're writing stuff like that?
Oh, I think we carry grief with us for our whole lives. I think it's kind of bound to come out in fiction or essays or whatever we're working on. They always, I don't know, that's the old saying that, you'll get over it or get past it or grieve through it. But like I said, I think you carry grief for your whole life. I don't think you lose it.
Yeah,
You just go through different phases of it.
yeah. And I mean, that's partly probably why it lends itself to fiction so much. But
Yeah.
it's also, I was just fascinated with that too, because I'm in a, I think most millennials, as we reach a certain point here, we're reaching that point where our parents are aging. And then you have to
Right.
start doing these things where you have to start making these decisions, or yeah, we're going to send them
Yeah.
to nursing
Yeah.
homes, in-home care.
Yeah. It's odd because um, I can remember my grandmother at the age my mother is now. So it's just kind of
Right.
like it's yeah, it's kind of hard a little bit to see.
Right. Yeah. That's something too. Yeah. Like that's why I'm so fascinated by it because it's obviously, especially as they're still alive or whatever, and that they're just aging and you're watching it, like it's grieving, but it's a different type of grief. It's not like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
the loss. It's there is that kind of subtle grief about, oh, the life that I lived in my childhood, kind of it's
Mm-hmm.
over. That's over.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Uh,
doesn't feel all that long ago. It just feels like just yesterday.
right. Yeah. So I'm just yeah, it's very fascinating. How do we deal with something like that? And then, yeah, the associations that come with it, the guilt, all of that that comes
Mm-hmm.
with it there, you feel like you owe something
Mm.
to your parents and then they need you more in that point. And that's, I guess, maybe what I'm getting at, the idea of like you reach a certain points where your parents need you more than you need them at a certain point as they age into, and I don't know, as I reach that point myself, I'm just kind of like thinking about it more and more. And so that's why I was so struck by your blog post there about the nursing homes and what that means, what that's actually like. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. So what inspired something like that when you wrote it or
Well, I had been working at the nursing home for, let's see, I'm trying to think. I wrote a couple pieces about working at a nursing home. And like I said, I worked there for about 4 years. So it was just kind of what I was going to eventually write about because I was there all day long, witnessing, getting to know the elderly. And so it was just kind of something I was bound to write about. I did enjoy working with them, and I wasn't a CNA. I was actually in housekeeping, but I did have a lot of one-on-one interactions. They were the bright spot of it.
yeah. That's interesting too. I think about working at one of those where you see the different levels too. So you see a few
Hmm.
people that are very still active and ready to go, and then you see the people that are on the verge of hospice.
Yeah, and it goes quickly. It can go quickly. You can actually have one where they are um, interactive and in their routine and living their lives, and then 2 days later, you come back to work and they're slipping away. Actually,
Right.
that's actually happened a lot when I was working there. So,
Yeah, maybe it's a fear. Maybe it's the fear that I'm thinking of. Like I'm feel fearful of that. When you reach a certain
yeah.
age, anything, one thing, and then it can all happen. One thing,
Hmm.
one fall, one
Yeah.
medical issue that you go in the hospital for one thing, and all of a sudden, I don't know. Maybe it's just the fear of that or something that's making me constantly think about aging parents, or I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we all have that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure our parents even had it when looking at their
yeah,
parents. I mean,
yeah.
they just didn't talk about it as much. We're a very open generation.
That's true. Yeah, especially compared to the previous ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing we like to ask on this podcast of writers, why did you go about publishing the way you did?
Well, I ended up going with an indie publisher. So, kind of backtracking a little bit, I originally tried to get an agent
Right. Yeah.
for years and years and years, and it just didn't happen. And I probably never will because the whole market's it's flooded with really great writers that, and the agents have to look at what's going to sell, what's going to work in this
Right.
market. So after realizing like, okay, an agent's not going to be a possibility, I had to go I wanted to find a publisher. And I found for two different, one was a series, and then the book I published this year, they were small indie publishers, and they accepted the books when I submitted them. If I hadn't and it hadn't found a place, I probably would have done the Amazon KDP route,
Right.
though I would have had to figure out formatting,
Right.
which to me I don't understand. So
Yeah. It's a whole
that
different
that
skill set. Yeah.
yeah, that's why I really wanted to find a publisher because I thought, well, that's that's their field, they know how to format a book, and I certainly don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
how
didn't.
was that? You said you spent years looking for an agent for that then?
Yeah, yeah, I spent probably a few years looking for an agent from the Keeper of Lost Daughters, and then gave up, sent it to some publishers, then continued to get rejections, just kind of let it sit there for 2 or 3 years and
Right.
revised it, started submitting it again, and finally, I'll say it was publisher 45 that I sent to.
Right.
They finally accepted it, and that's rest is history.
Yeah, it's always interesting because we like to know this. There's so many options now for writers,
Yeah.
and they all have their benefits, they all have their
Hmm.
downsides. I've had friends that I went to the MFA with and stuff that got big five deals,
Yeah.
and they're kind of not in that much of a better boat than people that did a KDP
Right.
or an indie press or something like that because you're just not
Yeah.
getting what you used to get out of those, you know?
No, yeah, because like back in the late 90s and early 2000s, the way to get published was to have an
Yeah,
agent. There
yeah,
wasn't a lot of indie publishers out there. And the market, here it is 20 years later, the market's so different.
right.
I mean, I'm in a way really glad because those of us indie authors wouldn't have a place at all.
Yeah. That's what's interesting too, is that there's like it's easier to put your stuff out there than ever. And then for some
Hmm.
reason, the sales are lower than they've ever been. And there's less marketing than there's ever been. And
Hmm.
it's just very strange the way everything's happening in this particular field. And you can see it in other fields too, but for publishing and writing, yeah, something's happening that is a little different. So I'm always fascinated when writers come on here with a little what they call non-traditional route, so indie publishing or
Yeah,
KDP or whatever it is. And I'm just like, fascinated how that works out. What drove you to it? Because there's so much out there, so many options,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it
For me, it
just
was just
yeah,
kind of like the process of elimination. Okay, this didn't work. Finally, this worked.
right. And like you
And
said, formatting and stuff like that,
mhm.
you get somebody to format it
Yeah,
for you. And even those indie deals are usually more favorable to writers as well, right? You're getting like
right.
40% of the
Yeah,
sales
the
instead of like
royalties, yeah,
five.
can be
Yeah.
better. Yeah,
Yeah. But of course, you still have to
yeah,
sell books, yeah, to get those.
true,
But
very true. Um, yeah, you got to hustle.
right.
Um,
And
yeah,
how
I
has
don't.
that been? How has that been for you too? Like hustling, getting on an indie press. Did you have to develop a marketing plan? Did you have to develop, social media strategies? Oh, the dreaded social media strategies.
I
How's that
did not.
gone?
Yeah, I didn't have a marketing plan. I probably should have. Um, uh, I did try to do the social media strategies, like, hey, I'm doing giveaways.
Right.
Hey, I'm doing this, and one of my giveaways worked. The other one didn't. I didn't get anybody
Right.
interested in it. Right now, I'm doing the podcast thing, which has worked really well,
Good.
and I'm trying to get some book signings lined up. But yeah, it's a definite hustle. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you. I mean, I'm sure every author says this too. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
hustle. You
even
can't
my
just.
friends that have had
Yeah.
big five deals, they were setting up their own bookstore events. They were calling the bookstores and setting up their own
Yeah.
signings and readings and yeah,
Yeah.
locally and yeah, stuff like that. Like it's all that. Yeah. Even if you have a publicist working for you or something, you still have
Mhm.
to do a lot of that yourself. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious. Yeah, we always like to ask writers when they go this indie route because you hear so many different things. You obviously hear about the success stories. You hear about like the Brandon Sandersons or the Colleen Hoovers, the
Yeah.
ones that have made lots of money and sold lots of books off of the indie self-publishing route. But then the 99% is out there hustling still. So I'm just always like I'm more fascinated by the 99%
Yeah.
than the
Yeah.
1% that got rich off of it. But so I was
Yeah.
just
I
curious.
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's just a roll of the dice these days. What works,
yeah,
what doesn't.
yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because there is so much and it is so overwhelming and you're doing it all on your own here. Is even something
Hmm.
like this podcast, like, I've been doing this like 3 years and it took a while to get to a
Yeah.
point where you get like a steady listener. I mean, like, and it's
Oh,
small. It's
yeah.
small compared to some of these other ones in there. So I'm always just like, man, it is rough. Even when you're doing a weekly kind of show, it's still people don't want to listen. They don't want to read.
Yeah.
They
Well,
don't want to buy it. They don't want to pay for it.
yeah. Well, like indie authors, I think there's a lot of podcasts out there too, and
Yeah.
you kind of do have to do your own hustling, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then yeah, I do kind of ask myself that question often too. Like, whereas like how much do I want to put towards the podcast when it takes away from writing or something,
Hmm.
if it's taking time away from writing because I have to edit this thing for an hour before I get, it's just kind of yeah, there's definitely decisions that have to be made every day when you're thinking about doing multiple angles. And of course, it's part of a marketing angle for my own stuff as well.
Oh
Put my
yeah.
face and name out there, and I love to help other writers do the same thing, put their faces and names and their books out there, and links to their books below, and all of that. So go click on it, listeners, so you can get Veronica's book. And it's still, I mean, it's still rough. It's still hard, but I mean, yeah. So I'm just curious, whenever a writer comes on, how they do that, how it goes about, how it's going. Facebook ads, Meta ads, Amazon ads, any of that? Have you done any of that or?
No, no. I don't even have a shoestring budget,
Right.
so yeah, it's more like I'm trying to do word of mouth kind of thing.
Yeah.
As
We've heard
publish
mixed
out.
things. We've heard
Yeah.
mixed things on that too. Like you can pay
Oh,
$100 or 200
right.
bucks and
Yeah.
get
See,
nothing, and you could pay $50 and get
hmm
a bunch of clicks. I mean, it's kind of hit or miss with those
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I didn't know anybody who had actually done that, so I thought,
Yeah,
well, better not, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Because they'll take your money and not do anything.
hmm
Yeah, yeah. So they would
Yeah.
a lot like
Yeah. And
publicists.
there are a
So
lot of internet scams out there too,
yeah,
targeting authors. You got to be careful.
yeah. A lot of Chinese kind of stuff. I see that even when I'm looking for stuff in like job boards or anything, they'll be like,
Mm.
"Oh, creative writers, come be creative and we make 15 an hour or whatever." But like you're writing these novels that are getting printed in China or something, and I
Oh
don't know.
wow.
It's like yeah, it's like slave sweatshop
Oh
writing. I
my
don't know.
gosh.
Yeah, I don't
Mm.
know what it is. It's like a I've seen it though, and I'm just always kind of like that seems like a scam.
Yeah, it's taking advantage of someone.
Yeah, exactly. Young writers, and then they're taking it, they own all the content, so you don't own the rights after you give it to them,
Yeah.
kind of. And they're like, well, we paid you for it, but they pay you very little for it. So, the pen name. Why the pen name, Veronica? Why did you decide to use a pen name, and what do you think it does for writers, etc.?
Um, okay, so the reason why I did the pen name, um, I is it okay if I use one tiny little small swear word? It's not really
Oh
bad.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I
Use as
didn't
many
know.
swear words as you want. Yeah.
Okay, so my last name's AC. It's spelled Asay. Inevitably, people want to pronounce it Assy. So I've been at school and at church, doctor's offices, variety of places, and they'll be like, Veronica Assy, will you please come? And I thought, okay, if I'm ever going to be published, I don't want the last name as spelled pronounced as Assy. So um, I went with my middle name Lee. I thought maybe that'll be easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only reason I did that.
So it was a branding, yeah, all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because like I said, I thought if I'm ever, like I said, if somebody's ever looking for my book, I don't want them to call me Veronica Assy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we've had others with pen names too, and I've asked. I try to ask too because it is something where it's nerve-wracking, to put yourself out there in some way too. And sometimes using a pen name can give you the courage to put yourself
Hmm
out there at first. Michael Crichton, Stephen King, these guys all wrote
Mm.
under pen names at a certain point.
Yeah.
It's for probably the same reasons. And then I think there's also a level of like some people are protecting themselves. You have a very public-facing job or something. You work for the government or something.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
it would be better to have a
Yeah, it
pen
gives you a
name
little
than,
privacy. It really
yeah.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if like there was any other reason other than, and then I've had people
No.
say it's just branding. Yeah, they're just so well, it's just a
Yeah.
better brand or yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few things were published under my actual name, and that's okay.
right.
I just thought like, oh, if I ever publish a book, it's going to be under this name,
Yeah.
not the mispronounced one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, make it easier for everybody to find your stuff too. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, a little branding exercise and pen name there for all you
Hmm
listeners. All right, Veronica, the last couple of craft questions here are all kind of craft questions we like to ask about.
Okay.
We like to ask, well, what is your writing routine like? How do you like to do it? And get
Um,
as detailed as you want here. We like the details on this podcast. So
well, if it's a short story or a novel, like I said, I usually start with the outline and I pretty much write a scene by hand or all those scenes by hand. Uh, kind of like you would write a stage script or something, or
Okay.
a stage play or something. And then I transfer all those notes to the computer, and then I just kind of like write from that,
Right.
rewrite and rewrite and rewrite until it kind of forms into an actual novel or even a short story. And I usually write, well, depending on what stage I'm at, can write from anywhere from an hour to 3 or 4 hours a day, usually in the afternoon. It's where I'm at my best.
Right.
I'm fed and happy. So
Afternoon. Okay. I like to
yeah,
ask. Yeah, some people are morning, some people evening,
yeah,
afternoon. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. That's just kind of like my open schedule time.
Yeah. And
So,
when you're writing out these outlines, do you use like a legal pad or something? I mean, what do you like to write in?
it's usually like on those spiral
Spiral.
notebooks,
Okay, that's
and
my
yeah,
preferred one as well. Yeah.
yeah, you can get them cheap at the Dollar
Yeah,
Tree. So
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah,
College ruled or wide ruled? What do you
college, I think.
college
Yeah,
ruled? Yeah,
yeah,
same.
whatever's on sale, really.
Same. I
Yes.
can't even look at a page if it's wide ruled. I can't even write something down on it.
Um,
I'm like, get this elementary school book out of my face,
uh,
when it's wide ruled. Any
yeah.
specific pens or anything like that? Any
Little Bic pens, cheaper the better, whatever
those, uh,
works.
these are the only ones
Yeah,
I've used for
e
15
even
years.
cheaper
Like,
than that, I
yeah.
get like, I don't know if you can see it,
Oh, okay.
yeah, just
The
like
the Bic
like 10
Classic.
for yeah, 10
Yeah.
for $1 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I like the roller ball kind of
Oh, yeah, but see,
this.
those are fancy to me.
Yeah, these are the only ones I've used for like 15 years because they always work and they're
Yeah.
so smooth, especially if you're going very quickly like with an idea or
Hmm.
something, it very quickly and nothing stops on the page or anything. It's kind of a gel
Yeah,
ink as
the
opposed to
little
the
Bic pens can dry out pretty quick.
yeah, yeah. So I just didn't, this is a podcast where we're into that. And I think it makes a difference,
Hmm.
if you like legal pads or if we've, yeah, all that stuff matters. So then you handwrite. I love the handwriting prospect. So the whole story creation happens handwritten with kind of,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
how do you
like
do
the
outlines? Is it very detailed or is it very just kind of jot notes, bullet points? How do you like to do it? Do you have entire dialogues kind of written?
yeah,
I
the
mean, how do you
dialogue.
do it?
I kind of frame a scene by the dialogue first,
Okay.
and then have some notes about what the character is doing, and then the dialogue, and then in the scene with some description, and then like I don't know, it just kind of helps me kind of visualize going off by dialogue.
Yeah.
When I go and transfer it to the computer, I can just better see it in my mind and actually write the scene a little easier. So, like I said, it's kind of like a little stage play originally, and then it
And
develops into an actual novel.
yeah, and when you transfer to the computer for the first time, are you writing full prose or are you just copying over the notes to have like
Originally it's just copying over the notes. Yeah, it's probably, I guess you'd call it more of a second draft that it actually becomes more of a novel.
right?
Yeah, like, and then it takes probably anywhere from 4 or 5 or more drafts to
Yeah.
make it kind of look okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We love these type of details, yeah, because everybody has kind of their own techniques and how what works
Yeah.
for them in this, and we just were fascinated by it. So I love that. I love when people, because even I fall victim to just starting on the computer, especially if I'm doing long form fiction or something, just
Hmm.
start typing out on the computer. Um, but then if I'm doing screenplays or something, outlines are very, very helpful for something that
Hmm.
has to be much more structured than a novel. Um, Poetry I like to do all handwritten, in a notebook,
Oh,
specific
yeah.
notebooks, and then but I would always write out, whatever comes to your mind, almost not free writing. I have a goal in mind, but it is kind of I'll let anything happen in that first draft, and then when I type it up, so then I take the handwritten stuff and I start to type it into, it becomes something else. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's an editing process in itself. So even just
Hmm.
retyping your outline notes, you start to see flaws. You start to see, well, I should move this
Hmm.
scene up here. I should move this one down here. Like you start to
Yeah.
move stuff around. It's an editing
Rework.
process.
Yeah, rework
Yeah.
dialogue, rework
Even
the
if you're
scene
not writing
altogether.
full prose, you're
Yeah.
still editing through the kind of original outline here and then editing it down and then making it easier to get that next step. So, yeah, I mean, we're just always fascinated about those types of routines. You said you're an afternoon. Any rituals, any elaborate rituals or anything? Or is it just jotting down ideas, just
Yeah,
routines?
nothing really huge. Like I said, I usually have the animals running along or trying to get on top and get attention. It's kind of chaotic. I got family members talking, I got the TV blaring. So,
Right.
yeah, there's kind of a method to the madness, I guess,
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. 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 I like that. I like that. So it's always interesting because some writers are like, oh, I need absolute silence. I need to be on this
Hmm.
meditative cabin in the woods, nobody around. Some people, yeah, are just like, I just sit down and start with a cup of coffee,
Hmm.
don't even think about it. Some people have to do like a meditation ritual before, it's just
Oh,
always interesting how, everybody has a little different
no,
style and
I just kind of like dive in or
just dive
try
in.
to.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, unless there's writer's block.
yeah.
That's no fun, as
What
I'm sure you
writer's
know.
block? That's something interesting too, writer's block. Because I'm something, yeah. Well, what do you think of writer's block? Do you think it's something where because my theory on it is it's when you start to judge yourself too much at a point when you
Hmm.
shouldn't be. So, like when they're in the kind of composition process, when you're writing out something, a scene, you're like, well, this is a bad idea. You start thinking about that maybe before you get to the editing stage where you should be thinking about that. You should just
Yeah.
let it come out at first, and then all of a sudden it starts to you get like paralyzed, and you're like, oh well, this isn't any good. What am I gonna do? And you get kind of paralyzed, and you can't work on it for a couple days or whatever. I don't know. I just didn't know. What do you think of writer's block? How do you usually get it? How does it come to you? How do you get out of it? Or
For me, writer's block is really it's real. It's usually when I'm just tapped out creatively. It's like I haven't had a break and I
right,
just become really tapped out and I can't I have to just basically take a break and relax for maybe a week or two or
right,
however. Yeah, it's just like, I'll be cranking out whatever, short stories, essays, novels, and then it'd be just like nothing.
right. You need a
Like, and
break.
whatever I do, try to put on the page just doesn't work. You can just tell it doesn't
Right.
work.
Yeah, you feel it. That's what
Hmm.
I've always try to stress to people out there that don't understand this. It's feeling more than anything else. You
Hmm.
you you know when it's working or not just because you're feeling that, not
Yeah.
necessarily because of what's on the page or not. So yeah, that's interesting that you feel like it comes from being almost overworked, the creative muscle being
Right.
overworked can kind of
Yeah.
fatigue it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and just when and I'll start to panic, like, what if I can't do it
Right.
again and start writing again? And
Right. The
and
doubt.
then,
Yes,
once I
yes.
finally just kind of let go, it's like it'll eventually come back.
Right.
You
Yes.
just need to kind of like relax and calm down and
Clear the
enjoy
head.
life a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Another question we ask all the writers that come on here, and we don't need to get into specific numbers or anything here, Veronica, but we like to ask, how do you make a living? Do you make any money off the literature? We ask this because,
Uh,
it's tough out there for writers. So we just like to know, and again, we don't need any numbers, we don't need anything specific,
uh,
but just how do you make a
I
living?
make like a small pittance.
Right. Yeah.
When I worked at the nursing home, it was usually about 2 weeks worth of whatever I made there at the nursing home. That's what it used to be. Last year was not a good year. Um, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think it just varies. It's more I think a love for the craft than I guess trying to earn a living.
Yeah, yeah. And that's we asked this to dispel the myth that all these writers are millionaires, but also because I think it's tough out there, right? It's rough to
Mm-hmm.
be a writer right now. You have to have a day job. You have to have, your normal job or whatever it is, even if it's part-time, whatever it is, you have to have something that's actually making you money to live because writing ain't gonna do it. So we just like to ask, are you one of the lucky ones that able to make a little something, or you
No,
gotta have
no,
the day
not so
job and
far. Like I said,
right,
it's
yeah.
usually sometimes I'll have bills crop up and the writing can cover that, but it's
Right.
nothing really extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you do for your day job? You said you worked at the nursing home for a while there, or
Well, I
you?
had this year I was doing some caregiving for an elderly gentleman and he passed away this early this summer. So I'm trying to apply for other jobs now.
Yeah, but mostly in that field, kind of
Yeah, it's
caregiving kind of
usually it
field.
always goes back to healthcare.
Yeah, yeah. Have you always done that for most of your?
Yeah, yeah, I've done some kind of healthcare related work. I've been a caregiver for grandparents, for my aunt. She had special needs.
Right,
Um, I worked some for an agency uh, for a little while. It was hard to get hours with that
right.
job. But yeah, the nursing home. Yeah, that I was there for about 4 years. I got kind of had some health issues, and then I had got burned out. So then I went then then I started working for this one gentleman who had passed away
Yeah,
recently.
and mostly
So
just kind of home care for elderly, kind
yeah,
of.
I
Yeah,
have to say I think I prefer that. It's
yeah,
quiet. It's
yeah.
get to know someone a bit more one on one.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little bit more. It's not as sterile as being in like a hospital environment or like a
Right.
hospice or nursing home where you have these beeps and monitors. I mean, you still
Mm-hmm.
have that sometimes, but it's just, you're in their
Yeah.
home. You're in their
Well,
home and
yeah, and they get to be
yeah,
happier in their
right. Yeah.
atmosphere. They can be around their family and have
They
their own
can
routine.
they can sleep without having like, people coming
Right.
in every hour or
Right.
something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to worry. I mean, family can just come in at any time and
Right.
make sure their loved one's okay.
Yeah, so that's always it said that. Well, I mean, with the grain of the population here, that should be a lot of work coming your way. In the
Yeah.
next 20 years here is going to be an explosion in not enough workers for that specific healthcare field too.
Mm.
So, whew, yeah, I don't know. It's just another one of those things I'm fascinated by the kind of looming population collapse and the kind of grain of the entire nation. We're going to have more people in their 60s than we are in their 20s.
Oh, yeah.
That's in
Yeah,
20
baby
years
boom,
in a
baby
short time.
boomers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a short amount of time. So in the next 10, 15 years. So that's going to be interesting how it changes things culturally, all of that. But we'll see. Another question we like to ask everybody that comes on here, Veronica, is what advice would you give to writers out there trying to start something like you did? Maybe starting to blog, maybe starting to look for some indie presses or self-publishing. What advice would you give people out there starting?
Um,
If any. Yeah, if any, right?
Probably what you usually hear, like never give up,
Right.
develop a
Yeah.
thick skin. My personal advice is to write outside your comfort zone because it
Okay.
was like when I started writing outside my comfort zone, I started publishing the short pieces
Right.
because I used to try to write one kind of genre that just didn't go anywhere. And then I started writing in like the mystery crime genre and that worked.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
interesting.
that, yeah, I was outside of my comfort zone, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting too. It's challenging. It's so challenging yourself in a way to do
Hmm.
that. Yeah. And then,
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I guess just kind of experiment. I
right.
mean, like I
Yeah.
said, stepping outside the comfort zone, experimenting in different genres, you'll find what works for you. It might
Yeah.
take a while, but
Right. Yeah. How long
it's
have you
worth
been
it.
blogging, honestly? Yeah. How long have you kept the blog up?
This one I've had, I think, since like 2017.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then I had another one before that, and it was kind of, I didn't update it all that much. I didn't really know what I was doing,
Right.
but it probably started it like back in 2009 or 10.
That was the heyday, yeah, of the
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you're a
that
writer, you
was.
don't
It
have a
was.
blog.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
probably when
Yeah.
everybody else was starting their blog. I did
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing with, I mean, I started a Substack and you have a Substack. I mean, you just have
Yeah.
to now. If you want to be in this game, well, that's part of the game now, is you have to have your
Yeah. Substack.
website, a
Yeah.
Substack, you have to have social media, you have to either be publishing for indie presses or KDP, or yeah, if you're lucky enough to get a big five, go do that. You just have to be doing all these things. You have to have a podcast. Yeah. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
or you
Yeah.
have to
I
be going
haven't
on
done
them.
that
Yeah.
yet.
Or you have to be going on them all the time. Yeah, something. You have to constantly be doing this, putting your face and name and
Yeah.
your
You kind of
work
have to
out
make
there.
yourself relevant or,
Yeah, or nobody will. Nobody's going to make you relevant for
yeah.
you. Yeah, it's you
Yeah.
or yeah,
It's not like the old Hollywood days where someone could walk
right.
past you and you're discovered.
Right, exactly. Excuse me.
That,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Would you like to be a published author? Yeah.
yeah,
That doesn't
exactly.
happen.
Sorry, you're just so beautiful. Would you like to star in the latest Hollywood picture? And
Yeah.
like, isn't it crazy that there was a time that that would happen?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I think like Lana Turner was discovered in an
yeah,
ice cream shop or something.
yeah. There was I think even Brooke Shields or somebody was
Oh,
like
really?
discovered by like
Well,
somebody like obviously she was a model and all that, but somebody was just like, okay,
yeah.
this woman needs to be in films. Like, look at her. Like,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, it might be like, if you live out west, you have a better chance of that
Hmm.
happening, near Hollywood or
Or at least
maybe in
used
New
to.
York.
Yeah. At
Yeah, you
least you
used to.
used
I
to.
don't know how that, it
Yeah.
probably doesn't do that now.
Yeah, I actually read an interesting piece. I follow Hollywood and kind of film and all of that. I'm interested in that, just like interested in publishing and just fiction in another format essentially. So I'm fascinated by it. And there was a great article where they wrote about how yeah, you're not seeing any of these kind of heartthrob starlets being discovered in the Midwest like you used to. Whereas like you could
Hmm.
find somebody that's from some small town in the Midwest, but they're going to be a star because they're gorgeous or whatever. And come on, honey, come get in the picture, and get in the picture shows. And this doesn't happen anymore. So all of the stars, yeah, like you said, are kind of concentrated. If they are new ones, well, they're from the West Coast or New York, yeah,
Hmm.
SoCal or New York, like the areas where that industry already is. There's no like
Yeah.
searching the middle of the country for like these lost
No.
gems, little hidden gems.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a big artist scene or
Yeah.
acting scene here in Indiana, that's for sure.
Right, yeah. Which is a shame, yeah, because then you think of places like Chicago, there's a huge kind
Hmm.
of yeah.
Well, okay, I will say, maybe like around a bigger city like
Right,
Chicago, you do,
right,
but
yeah.
little Terre Haute isn't going to have it.
Right. Yes, yes. I lived in a small town in Louisiana for grad school, and it was kind of a culture shock for me coming, being a city boy, bohemian boy, and going into kind of rural Louisiana. Not even rural, it was just a small city, and yeah, them not having a concert venue or something, or there was no
Hmm.
like I was kind of like, okay, my favorite restaurants were not there. They didn't have a okay,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's so like yeah, it is different
yeah.
things.
Like Terre Haute has some things. We definitely have a lot of restaurants. That's what we do here is eat. Um, we don't. Yeah, we don't have anything major really beyond that. We have a community theater, but yeah, it's not like anything you would find in a big city.
Right.
Or
Yeah. 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 This is a shame. Yeah, there used to be all kinds of community theater stuff. I was just reading this John Irving book, A Prayer for Owen Meany, and it's about small town New Hampshire or Vermont, and you know, even then they had the community theater thing and it was a big deal.
Mhm.
Everybody went and saw it in the 50s and
Yeah.
they had it like, I was like, yeah, they were doing a Christmas carol at Christmas time, community theater. And I was like, yeah, we didn't even have that in the small town in Louisiana. It
Oh,
was like, even that
yeah.
was
Well,
gone.
we have
Yeah.
teeny tiny towns like that too in the Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame. Yeah. Because you think they probably were such a rich, that probably was more important 50, 100 years ago in even in those small
Hmm.
places, if they could only find the same actors in every play because it was the same,
Hmm.
neighbors that wanted to do amateur theater. But yeah, I don't know. Just interesting thing to think about. Yeah. Another question we like to ask, are you reading anything good, watching anything good? What's filling your head? And this can be anything from, high-minded literary Jane Austen to trash reality TV. Whatever. We just like to know what's filling your head. Or,
Um, right now, I've been rereading a mystery series by Debbie Vigay. Um, she writes about a church secretary and a rabbi solving murder mysteries.
huh,
It's like a Psalm 23 mystery. So I'm kind of rereading those. That's what I've been rereading lately. What I've been watching is The Gilded Age.
okay.
It's on HBO. It
Right.
takes place in the 1880s New York with
Very,
the,
very Wharton. Very,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's kind of where it got its inspiration.
Old New York. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're almost finished with the season. It's been very dramatic.
Yeah. 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 That's great. That's great. Yeah, I haven't watched that one, but I've been seeing it everywhere. Yeah. They've been promoting it, and yeah, it's right up my alley. I like Downton Abbey and all of that as well. When that,
Oh yeah, yeah, they're gonna have a new movie soon too. Yeah.
yeah, it definitely peaked and it's been on the decline since. I mean, that show's
Mm.
it's been on forever, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed watching it when it was on. Yeah, in kind of that Wharton Austin style manor house,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
drama of the manor house. Yeah, that's very very good, very rich topic for fiction. Very good
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
could explore it for 8, 9, 10 seasons in a couple movies. So,
yeah,
you
yeah.
could
Well,
keep going with it.
maybe
Yeah.
the Gilded Age will do that. Who
Right.
knows?
Yeah. And another question, the final question, what are you working on now? What's taking up your creative energy, if you feel free to share it?
I'm working on a crime mystery called Fire by Night. Takes place in Indiana in the 1930s. It's actually, I had gotten a small book deal with Level Best Books, and it's the second story in the series. So I'm trying to work on it to kind of be ahead of the game.
Okay. Great.
So I'm in the middle of draft two.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. You said that book deal was for the other book that was part of a series?
Yeah, yeah. The little mystery series in the 1930s. It features a uh, female sheriff who inherited her position through widow succession. Her husband had been a sheriff of the town, and he died in the line of duty. And so she inherited her position, and she solves mysteries and crimes
Right.
in her hometown.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Veronica, this has been fantastic. Please come back
Yeah,
anytime. Come back for the
I'd
next
love
book.
to.
Come back to talk about a book or something. We like to do these little kind of
Okay.
book club talks as well. So please feel free to come back anytime. Where can people find you? Give websites, social media handles.
Uh,
Of course, this will all be linked below as well. But yeah, where can people find your stuff? Where do you want them to go?
my main website is veronicaleeauthor.wordpress.com. I'm on Twitter under VL Author. Instagram, I think it's Veronica Leigh Author. And then what's the other one? Threads. It's Veronica Leigh Author.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, that's all linked below as well, listeners, as well as Veronica's
Awesome.
book, her website. Go check it out, buy a copy. Veronica, please come back.
I'd love to. I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Heavy.
Bored.
Heavy.
I am heavy.
Bored.
I may say that the male is entirely hostile.
You know,
Resources.
Life, friends, is boring. We must not say so. Are you radioactive now?
Inner.
Resources, American resources.
Being bored?
Some activities are intentional, right?
It shows such a lack
Heavy.
of gratitude for life. Bored. I aspire to boredom, I
Heavy.
should say.
Bored.
Heavy.
I am heavy.
Bored.
Has you the night sweats and the day sweats, pal? Pal, I do.